Well, now we also catch up with time. We have now a story on the next session. No, you don't need it. I received an email by Nicolás Franco saying, "Oh, it's wonderful. You're organizing this event. It's wonderful. It was just 2 weeks ago, so 1 week before the event. I didn't know that. I want to be there. I want to be the sponsor. I want to make a session. We make everything." So we reviewed everything we did, the graphics, and so that's why there were many mistakes in the leaflets, and we changed completely the agenda. And we said, well, Nicolas, don't interrupt me. And he said, I also speak Italian, even if I'm Spanish, so I immediately loved him. And we changed everything, not because he wanted to be the sponsor, but just because we met him in Turkey, and we immediately found ourselves in synchrony. It's a first gut feeling, and I don't think I'm wrong. So then we had to get in touch again. We went through the pandemics, and so sand storms, world wars, nuclear threats, and so I really forgot about him. And so I had to change the agenda to have Nicolas, to give Nicolas a slot. It's a sponsored session, but like everything, we don't even want sponsors to whom will be providing our money, so as service providers. So this session is a wonderful example on how to use FileMaker, but besides that, it's also very interesting for the contents, because as I've been repeating millions of times since the very beginning, the important thing is not what's behind the system, but the user was going to use it. So the bus operator, Nicolás Franco's session.
Non c'è. Ah, bene, bene. Io parlo un po' l'italiano, lo capisco bene, ma non lo parlo.
I speak a bit of Italian. Of course, I cannot do the whole presentation in Italian. I will shift to English, even though my English is not that perfect, but maybe it's more easily understandable.
Operator. Why the bus operator? Because, of course, during last 2 days, there have been a couple of topics on security, and I thought before coming, as she says, it was just in the last minute because we found this meeting a month ago, and we wanted to be here. You know, like I think as I am the only Spanish that is in this event. So I wanted to show something that is important, that is the security. And why the bus operator? Because usually, you know, on the buses that we used to have a person that you give the ticket and he is in charge of seeing that everybody that is allowed to go in the bus is really can go on the bus. So nowadays, this is different. You cannot go. You don't have to show a ticket, you have different ways to go inside, but always you need a pass or you need everything that is allow you to go on the bus. And this is why I want to show by layers how we think we should put in place a security on a FileMaker. And I think that is a mixture of different techniques, and in 30 minutes I think it can be valuable for almost everybody. So first of all, who I am Nicolás Franco from Spain. Some of you already know. I am not a coder, I am not on the technology science ever, because I was a physicist. I was working on labs, I was doing research for many years. So like 20 years ago, something like this, I retired from research and I start to be entrepreneur. It means I founded a company named Mr. Houston that is focused on any kind of technologies. And this company, I mean, because I was using FileMaker for more than 25 years and started using in the States before I retired from research, and I love it. We founded a group in the company that is named BitBoss that is focusing only on FileMaker. FileMaker, we're around 10, 11 persons. We have different spots in Spain. In the north of Spain, we have 2 spots. We have also another one in Mexico. So we are working like 10, 11 persons working only on BitBoss. So we have more or less like since 20 years, we are working with this technology, if we mean. But really what I am a learner. I try to learn from everybody. I am not really an expert. I am not a guru, but I am a learner. I know many things from many different areas. But it means that at the end, you almost don't know anything about any single area. But more or less, I can understand how it works, and I am able to make a presentation like today. So what is important to have a good security system? Is important because, of course, you need, first of all, you need to have a security system. I mean, you don't leave your data to everybody open, but it's important that the security system is in place. But even if you have a good security system, if it's not activated, it doesn't serve at all for anything. But why is it important? It's important because there is a lot of cybercrimes. I mean, most of the people who earn money, a lot of money nowadays, are cyber criminals. So now everybody's focusing on trying to get your data and have money on this, and you have to be very, very careful. Most of our company works on the bank sector, so it's very, very important for them, the security. And of course, because the law enforces most of the companies to have this security, and if you want to apply for ISO or whatever, it's very, very important to have some specific security schema with security setups. Other case, they don't allow you to work in your area. Also, because the customers appreciate it. I mean, if you tell them that you have a good security, I mean, it's not, usually most of the clients don't care. What they want is to work properly and to do the thing fast, don't care too much, but they appreciate that you tell them that you have a good security system, and it's a kind of way of selling your company, and they are doing the things properly. And at the end, it's because the integrity of data, the data integrity is what really matters the most. I mean, at the end, the data is the most important. All of us, we're working with data, and data is the most important thing, and we have to be careful about who is looking, who is taking, who is managing data, right? And also there is one thing that is, it doesn't hurt a lot to do it right. I mean, it's not so difficult. I mean, really, you only have to be careful and have a minimum of the setup, and I think we have many tools nowadays to have a good security. I mean, of course, I remember when I was in the States, I was working for a military lab, and they say that the only way to not allow the bad guys to go to the data is not to use the data. That means you have the data, you put in a box, you don't use it, and this is the only way. Other case, you always have, I mean, you can have problems or whatever. I mean, it's impossible to be sure that your data are 100% sure, but at least a minimum we have to do it, right? So, first of all, there's one thing that almost nobody takes care of. At least, I mean, take care to do the minimum, but that is the physical control. I mean, you have always your data on a server, you have the data in the office, in the client, whatever, but you don't care who is really going to touch or you have access to your machine. And this is why you have to put your data, you know, someone knows the Fort Knox. I mean, if the people who love James Bond know perfectly, because they used to be the most secure place on Earth, or they claim it, right? This is Fort Knox, is where they put the States. I don't know if already, but they used to put the gold, you know, all the gold inside. I mean, of course, you don't have to put us up for knocks, but you have to have this mentality. I mean, nobody can approach my server, nobody can touch my server. This is why you have to put your server first on a security data center. I mean, you don't have to leave it in the middle of the office or whatever. You have to have really secure place, and nobody can have access, and access have to be controlled and have to be logged and all of this stuff. This is important, even if nobody cares, but it's really important. And also inside, of course, the server is on a rack, probably, and you have to close the rack. I mean, you have to have always this kind, different layers to access to your data, and this is the physical access also. These layers are important, because the most difficult is to approach, the most difficult is for the bad guys to get it. No? Also, you have to encrypt your database. The database encrypt, of course, you know that in FileMaker you can encrypt your database, you can encrypt on rest, you can do it, but you have to do it. I mean, it depends how you set up, you can do it or not do it, so be careful to do it. But it's a problem also on speed. I mean, if you encrypt your data, or at the end, your system is a little bit slower, not too much, but a little bit slower. So, of course, nobody wants, and it's many times that you don't want to encrypt. And also, you have to be careful with the password, the encryption password, because if you lose it, you are basically, well, you know what it means, no? You have to have a limited, of course, everybody is doing backups, and you have to have also limited access to the backups. Of course, you have to log this access, you have to put, on place this limited access so nobody can take your backup. Most of the time you want to have backups on the cloud, but also you want to have a physical backup. And this physical backup is important to be encrypted and to be, the access has to be with a password. This is important, no? And of course, everybody can say, okay, but if you put on a cloud, you get rid of all these problems. For sure, this is why almost most of the companies wants to put on a cloud. The problem is that the really biggest company don't like let's say the general clouds. They want to have their own clouds because they don't want to let other companies to manage the data. And most of the big bank companies, they have their own clouds, and depending, but it's much better to put it on a cloud. Usually the cloud is really a very secure place, nobody can access, and all of these points are really effective, right? This is the first thing that we have to do to take care. But the most important is the logic access, not the physical access, but the logic access. So the logic access, first of all, is how you access directly to the data. I mean, there's many layers that you have to control, and those layers is really, you have to put in place different security system, let's say, And for this, you have to, first of all, to put, who knows? This is Korea. This is a demilitarized zone of Korea. It means an area where is no military area. So this is how you name a DMZ. DMZ usually is what you do when you put your server, you make a DMZ. It means that nobody can access. It's completely closed, and you have to put your server inside this access, and the people that is working on the company inside this area, so nobody really can access from outside. And if they access from outside, they have to access through a VPN. So you put your DMZ, you access by VPN, a restricted VPN is good. And of course, you close all the ports of your firewall, and it's good to try also to have control of the IP or MAC access, or both at the same time. It means you leave the people with specific IP, static IP to access, or a specific machine to access. You have many functions, a couple of functions in FileMaker with a nick get, it gives you the nick of the machine, or I forgot the name of the get, is the number of the machine, the function. Eh? Persistent ID, right, that's it. Persistent ID or the nick ID, so you can have access to a specific machine, you can control the machine, so it means that the people cannot take any machine and working on it. I mean, it has to be their own machine. So for accessing this machine, of course, they have to log in. So with their own password, you have another security level so to get access. And of course, for this access to the internal network, you have to authenticate. As you can say, I mean, we are not even close to the FileMaker. I mean, we are really on the area where FileMaker can access. But even in this area, usually you have to log in. There is an authentication that you have to put, and is important. I mean, most of the time now with our clients, they need this two-factor authentication, something that is a pain in the neck, because the other day I was in a client and I forgot my cell phone and I couldn't access and didn't do anything. So it's a pain in the neck itself when to have this double factor, but it's very, very effective. Most of the banks do it. I mean, if you want to access, you have to do it, this double factor authentication. But it's something that is not from FileMaker. It's only to access to the net that is going to giving you access to FileMaker. This is another layer that is important. So let's go now to the FileMaker. First of all, I think that it's very important that you don't give direct access to the data. I mean, you have to pass through another different processes before going to the data. And for this is another place. Everybody knows? Eh? Yeah, this is China. And this is China. This is Tianjin. This is a city that they made exactly the same than Paris, but it's a ghost city. I mean, nobody lives there. They build it, but there's nobody living there. I mean, your data or your, let's say, your files has to be like ghosts. You don't have to see them to see. I mean, hide all the files. Hide all the files. So only one single file, perhaps that is the one that you give you access, has to be let's say, visible for your clients or for your users. Also, you have to create an access control file. What we do is we make a file that gives you control to other files. So we have to pass always through this first file in order to manage the other ones. And because we do always a separate data model, this one is the one that grant you access to different other, let's say, files that, depending on where are you working in the company, give you also access to certain data or not other data, right? And for giving access to this control file, we create a launcher. Launcher is very useful because launcher is a small, FileMaker that you put on your desktop. You double-click and give you access directly to this access control file. But what is good of this launcher? That you can put a launcher that only works on a specific machine, only works for a specific person, so you can give them by email, and he cannot give to other persons. So you can personalize your launcher, and the launcher is very useful for the clients. They like it because only double-click the launcher and they have access to, they grant access to the rest of the application, and it's very easy for them. But for you, it makes you really another layer of security there. And of course, what we like the most is to authenticate by domain controller. I mean, it's very, very complicated, I think, in FileMaker. It's one of the things that I hate the most in FileMaker is really the security that is inside. So I prefer to use a domain controller. Domain controller is usually also is separate on the companies the person that is in charge of the security or the controlling the whole domain, that in our case, our company that is coding FileMaker. So you delegate really all the passwords, all the control of the person that have access inside to the domain controller. That usually is another department who grant this access. So the domain controller is very, very useful, and I think is very important to install, at least in the companies that have a lot of users. Other cases, later on, it's very difficult to manage all the passwords and all the accesses, right? And Of course, this launcher, this is what I said, the launcher, you can have also a specific passcode in order to, more than a passcode, you can give specific conditions that only can be open in certain conditions, something that is good. So how is working this? I mean, usually you have this launcher that is in your desktop, you double click, and this launcher is, in this case, is trying to open this by, this is another file. As you can see, the other files are hidden, you cannot see them, there's only one that you can see. Of course, you can see this one in case of you don't have this launcher and you want to open and you have access to them. So they ask to open this file, and they don't, because you don't have access already, they go to the Active Directory. In this case, it's an Active Directory. You can use any other domain controller for credentials. They give the key, and in this case, they can open the file. So it's very useful to have this schema. So it's very, for the user, it's completely easy because it doesn't have only, I will show you now directly, you only have to do one thing, that is put his authentication, I mean, login and password, and that's all. But it's very, very secure for the system, right? Later on, when we have access, already we open the file, we have access to the file. What is important for us? What is important for us is this. This is most difficult to know, no? Nobody knows. This is from one architect that in France created this Pritzker Prize. You know, Pritzker Prize is like the Nobels of architecture. He's a very, very well-known guy. And he made all his construction like modules, like different, it's all separates. You can come inside one, but with different gates, and depending on where you're going. This is Alice in the middle of Africa. This is beautiful. It's done in Burkina Faso. And you go by one door, one gate, and you can come inside only a certain spaces, but there's different way to come inside, and it's always built by different models. And this is what the same idea. I mean, first of all, you have to create a module independent of FileMaker. You have a structure of FileMaker, security structure that is completely independent of what we name FileMaker. We don't use anything from FileMaker, since only I have one single account for any single file that give you access. And after we control the whole access of the platform, we control only with this security model that is independent. So we will show you later. And this control, the access permission, I mean, you have permission to go to different areas of your system or different data of your system, or you can view, or you can read, or you can write, or you can print, whatever it is you that are doing this permission with your module, your security module, right? And you create also an access menu. This access menu grants you access to different areas of your application. And first you go to this menu, and after, with this menu, only give you access to the different parts. So first you have like an entrance where they only give you access to different areas, and in those areas you have only access to different data or to do different things with different data, right? And this file is the one that controlled everything, but it's a kind of another program made by us in FileMaker that is very easy to put in place. I mean, if everybody wants the program, we can give it them. I mean, we are open to share this idea with anyone. There's no problem. And of course, is a data separation model that is essential. I mean, we work always with data separation models, something that in this case is you can put in place very easily, but you need a data separation model. And of course, we work also with sessions. I don't know if most of the people work here with sessions. You know, sessions, it means that when everybody is logged in, you have a table with you have a new record with the session, and in this session, you have all the globals if you want, and you have all the access, and he can give the log of this person, what he's doing, and we have all these sessions. So for us, it's very easy to implement because we have this file of sessions that is attached to this other module and give you access, right? So once we are there in this different module, at the end, through the data, and I don't know how much time I have because I only have 30 minutes, through the data is like a labyrinth. And this is the last one. Who knows what's this? Do you remember? No? No? The Shining? The Shining. Yeah. Like The Shining. I mean, go to the data, it's like a labyrinth, and you have to put like a labyrinth for the bad guys to go there. I mean, you have to put many, many different specific gates or the specific difficulties, you know, for the data not to come to your data, not for the users to not come to your data. The security shouldn't, and what is important is that the security should not harm the user. And everything that you put in place, it's important that for the user it will be completely transparent. I mean, they don't have to really do anything, but you have to control everything, but for them, it doesn't exist. It's very, very important, whatever you do. And it should be implemented, as I say, layer by layer, because it's important that anything not in the same level that you grant access, okay, you can go to the data. I mean, you have really to put different difficulties to go to the data. It's important. And it's something that also, in our case, most of the time what we try is to be relocated from the FileMaker server. It means we can put everything, security, on another server in order that controls the server without the data, and you put in the middle this security layer with the security system that control later all the data that are on another server. And what I say, and this is related to the other one, the permission should be organized in a separate environment, I mean in a separate model, not all together with the FileMaker. So in 2 minutes or 5 minutes, I will give you more or less an example of this, because it's very difficult. There's many, many ideas that I put in place one after the other, and it's difficult, but I say there is no complicated, and because I only have this 30 minutes, I don't know. At what time should I finish? No? Nobody told me? Bueno, so I can stay for longer. So, as you can see, first of all, if I want to access to my data, I put in place VPN and access the data. And here, as you can see, I don't know if, let me do it bigger. I have this launcher. I don't, if I can see? No. Yeah, here. This is a specific program. It's very easy. The only thing is telling me to access the database is on the desktop. Let me check up. Is on the desktop, and because I don't want, I mean, I can do it, I can click on it directly, but what I will do it because it's much more fast, because I tried before, and is to get access to, this is my computer that is in the other side of the DMZ, and we access it by VPN, and I have this, I can double click the launcher, and as you can see, they are asking the control domain about my credentials. Just a second. ¿Qué pasó? That's it. It's a little bit delayed. And once they open, they give me access to this specific, let's say, this specific menu, thank you, menu. And depending on where you have, because I have access to most of the things, I have access to different areas. And because it's separated by areas, this platform, if you only have access to products, or you only have access to sales, or you only have access to administration, you will only see those icons. So you will not be able to punch, neither goes to any of this, right? So you have this security system that is opening here, and you can control most of the things that is doing the platform. First of all, you have the accounts. I mean, these accounts, the only thing that you have to give the same name that the account in the domain controller. When you go to administration, there is a person, you make a new record, there's Nicolás Franco, and you give the account. And because you can, for the same person, you can give them different accounts. I can have different profiles, with different setup, security setup for accessing different areas of the program, right? And I can switch it on and off. After you have the roles of the accounts, I mean, the roles, it means I am working, right? I mean, in this case, I can put different ones. I mean, it's in Spanish, but I can tell you this is for selling, this is for ID, this is research and development, this is the people who is buying stuff, this is for the construction, this is for the platform. I mean, you have different areas. So you construct by areas, and this area can have different levels. And once you have these different levels, you set up also the privileges. I mean, what are allowing to do? For example, new record, delayed record, to see a record, to change data, to print, to send, to import, to export, whatever. And at the end, you mix all of them, and you create these security items. Security items, it means, for example, I can do everything that is related with products, everything that is related with sales, everything, or on something that is related with this part of the company and this other part. And you are giving them to the different layers, different accesses. And at the end, what it gives you is on a table, and because as you can see, the model is very easy. I mean, the whole security, let me check. The whole security model is there. Yeah, I mean, I put different colors for different, as you can see, we are very organized. We try to be extremely organized and extremely, so the model is very easy. It's very easy, so with few tables, you only, at the end, you have a mixture of what person can do in a different, what he can do in your platform. So whenever he does, because in any programming tool that we're building, everything is done by scripting. The first thing that script is always checking is if this person is allowed to do it. And this gives you a number, an ID, a primary key, and it checks if you have this primary key. So in any single script that we have, the first thing is check. And you check if he's allowed to do it. And if he's not in the list that is allowed to do it, he cannot do it. So you control everything, you know. Of course, you have to put in place this area that takes a while when you're finishing to build, you know, a system. It takes a while. But once you're built and once you are putting in place, it gives you really the functionality to allow anybody to do whatever you want. And is in FileMaker. You are not trusting. That means what means in FileMaker is something that you build and is inside FileMaker. We don't use anything about the security of FileMaker because here is much more fast for us to control and to module. So I think that this is everything that I wanted to show. And I would be glad if someone wants to discuss about or have a question or whatever. I am happy to help. And of course, this is, in our case, our company, we are always glad to share any knowledge that we have. So we are not kind of company that say, no, I don't want to share, it's only for myself. No. So if anyone wants to put in place anything that we know already how to do it, free to call me, to send me an email, and we'll be happy to send this part of the code and for them. The only thing is that most of the comments, because our scripts are always very common, I don't know if we mix always English and Spanish. So perhaps you have to translate a little bit, but nowadays with Google Translator is easy. So thank you very much.
Eccoci qua, se avete... Mi sentite? Non sono più abituata.
Here we are. So if you have questions, you can find him during the coffee break. Now I will let him go. So thank you for the wonderful presentation. It's been a pleasure to have you with us. My pleasure. Next time, I'd like to know it earlier. Don't worry, I tell you now. I tell you now the dates if you like. Fantastic. October next year. October next year, I will tell many Spanish people to come. But I want you to come, and I want you to support us just as you've done with your value. Dio.